Everybody, take a deep breath and close your eyes for a sec. We'll do this.
Whew. That was a beautiful stream of energy for me, and it's still very much ringing in my ears.
Oh my God.
Calling.
Hello.
Do we answer when spirit calls?
Long time listener, first time caller. Here we go.
Yes. Are you the first time caller? Have I been calling your whole life and you're only beginning to think about picking up?
Sometimes I hit mute.
Sometimes I can't find my phone.
Goes to voicemail.
So when do you know when that ring is for you to follow? White warrior.
When do I know the ring is for me to follow?
Yes.
When spirit's calling, you're asking?
Yes. Is it spirit? How do you know? Like, or is it a telemarketer?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
That's the big question, right? When you start following spirit and then you get an intuition, you get a feeling, or you get a push to do something, or a thought, and okay, where did that come from? Is that my higher self? Is that spirit guiding me, or is that my ego, or is that conditioning? And so discernment becomes like the big thing. Deciding to follow spirit's one thing. Knowing when spirit's talking to you is a whole other thing. There's a lot of guidelines I could throw out there.
A rule book?
I think.
Is it a rule book? A rule book. Is it just guidelines, or is it a rule book?
I think there's some. I think there's some. If if it feels good, it's it's easier to rule it out than to decide for sure it's from spirit. If it feels, if it's fearful, if it makes you feel bad when you're feeling it, if it's like a low, like if it is scary, then it's probably not from spirit. But to know really if it's from spirit, you at some point you just have to trust. You have to make a choice and go with it, and oftentimes you only find out down the road. I think a lot of practice is necessary. It's like developing a relationship. You have to the more you trust and the more you listen to spirit and the more you take action, the more you get to know what when spirit is talking to you feels like. So it's something you develop. I think it's a skill. Talking to spirit or listening to your higher self is a skill. I think that needs to be practiced and developed. And after a while, you just kind of know. But as I'm describing now, how you describe that's not the easiest thing in the world, because I don't know how to explain this. It's practice and trust.
Well, I'm going to just quickly jump over here for a little contrast. So Beloved has experience with when was your first experience when you felt like you were receiving Archangel Ariel?
Ariel came in the 90s. And that was a very interesting time because I'd never worked with angels. I've always worked with loved ones from the other side and the other realms, you know, the fae, the fairy realm, and all of that. But I had never, ever worked with angels. And when Ariel came in and started talking with me, they ended the very first time they spoke with me, they ended with, "We are complete, end transmission." And they always end like that. And I sat there and I said, and you're an angel. Right. You saw me darn Trekkie, right? Because I didn't know what angels were at that point. I thought they were, you know, these sweet little beings with wings and all the pictures that we always see of them. It's not what they are, but I didn't know. But it was a whole nother energy. It was when Ariel came in. It came in the first time when we were moving, when we were dancing. And I felt them come in and dance with me and move with me and hold me. And it was such powerful, powerful energy. I mean, the tears were just rolling down my face uncontrollably. And I remember saying, "I'm home, I'm home, I'm home." So yeah, that was really neat. The only other time I've ever used those words were when my kids moved to Asheville and my daughter called and said, "I know you belong here." And I said, "That's so sweet. My daughter misses me." But I flew up, and the minute my feet touched the soil, the tears, and I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. And of course, it's the most Celtic land in the US, but it's settled by all the galactics and the beautiful tribes. And I've had so many lifetimes there. So, but those are the only two times I've ever used that expression. And it really was home, coming home.
It wasn't like E.T., go home, get that one.
No. You know, it's funny. I asked Ariel one time, what's the difference between angels and ETs? And, you know, I work with that realm. And their answer was, what difference? You know, there's no difference. What do you think angels are? We're all galactic beings, right? We all come from the source. However one understands that. So yeah, with E.T. come home.
Oh, E.T. come home. That's what it was, not go home.
Come home.
Okay, Joan, you get to rebuttal. No.
Nope.
Okay, come on. All right. So when was the first time that you had a spirit experience that you got the ring and you were like, either I'm home or go home or I'm not answering? No.
Oh, there you go. Not answering.
I can remember as a very, very, very small child sitting on the front steps of our farmhouse, waiting for my family to come and get me. Because my family didn't feel like my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt different, but not strange. And that was the first time I think I actually remember going, I hear different things than other people do. And I think that was my first time recognizing that not all people heard or listened or had that experience and couldn't figure out why I felt so comfortable being uncomfortable.
You really felt that at that young age? You were comfortable being uncomfortable? You weren't feeling like you were the weirdo?
No, I thought they were.
Like that. My mother used to ask me where
because I can remember just going, oh, no. Because I was asking questions in Sunday school and in school, and they kept telling me I was a problem, and I kept saying, well, no, you're the one who can't answer. I just have questions. So it was like, oh, okay. So that in terms of processing those thoughts, where I got tripped up later on was listening to the voice of spirit that, and this is where, and Greg and I talked about this, community being so important, so you can kind of run it by other people, because there's a lot of people who will tell you they are functioning by the direction of spirit. And it's interesting to watch what happens. I've run into that just being in kind of spiritual circles where the anointed ones will tell you it's from spirit, and it's, well, that's a very different message than what I get. You know, if you look at any of the great cult leaders, they believed that they were following spirit, but their community couldn't challenge them or couldn't question them or couldn't talk about anything. So it's always kind of that slippery slope where you have trusted people around you who go,
That's enough out of you, Joan.
yeah. Well, Greg and I were just talking about this on the phone not that long ago, you know, and he brought up about community to sit and talk. It's like, oh, I'm feeling the nudge of spirit. He and I have encountered people who felt like they were following the voice of spirit, and it's kind of interesting what they were drawn to do in the name of following the suggestion of spirit. So,
Well, there is more than one spirit, right? Isn't there? Or is it one spirit that we all perceive differently?
Good question. Good question.
Who's got the answer? 100 points.
You'll
I can
read
have a
about
comment. I don't know if that's the answer.
Okay, go for the comment.
I think there's far more types of spirits and spirit out there than there is human beings. And everything from stuff that will lead you down the wrong way and stuff that will make your life easier. And it's all of those. Hey, Joan, is your internet acting weird again?
I just unmuted. I muted her to see if the click would stop in between, and now maybe her internet is acting up because it's turning it around. Just as you talked about other spirits, she started to flip.
But I think all of them have the ability to be a guide to get you to be your highest self, whether it's something that you want to do or don't want to do. It's like, even like in the fairy tales, like, you know, in Wizard of Oz, the road that you can skip happily down is not usually the one that is actually lead you. You know, it will lead you to discover the fake man behind the curtain. And that's kind of like where our culture has been until recently. And then that guy behind the curtain showed his face, and now we're actually dealing with the outcomes of that, the fallout from that now. And yeah, but they're all necessary parts. Like, if we're never challenged, then we will, you know, we can't live in a world that is so perfect that we would never really have to change, because then we just won't evolve. There has to be challenges.
So when White Warrior was saying about the feeling, if you're feeling afraid, sometimes that maybe his experience, it might be the wrong place to go. And I know I sometimes have felt that fear, but that fear was, that's where I need to go, right? That was because I had to learn to overcome that feeling and trust that experience. Just like I was saying the other day, how my shoulders seem to be more relaxed being in a stressful position, right? It's like you have to, each of us has a different experience in order to find the truth inside ourselves, or, you know, reveal the man that we used to think ran the show and then discover, oh, the power is right here.
Yes. I think spirit can basically lead you to the cliff and tell you to jump because you don't believe you can fly. And when you jump, and I'm definitely not telling anyone to go jump off a cliff. That's nowhere near what I'm talking about. And it's like the leap of faith that we always hear about. That's that for sure. Because like that's the process that I've always gone through. And you've heard me say it before. It's spirituality, I think, or enlightenment is being 100% honest with yourself 100% of the time. And I don't know anyone who meets that criteria. Haven't met him yet, haven't heard of him. But it's the ability to be humbled and have some idea where you are, not to judge yourself, not to say, well, I'm at 99%, none of that sort of stuff, but just to know I am flawed. I have things to do, and it's okay. It's okay. You can choose your battles. You have that free will. You have that right. You can choose your battles, and you can look at stuff and go, I'm not going to deal with that right now. I just don't feel like doing that. Even if spirit's leading you to that, you have the right always of refusal. And that's why it's difficult when you first jump on the spiritual path, because you think all these things that a spiritual person should be. You have this list in your head of things that they're definitely not. And the truth is, everyone is all of those things at any given time, whenever. And that means you're not really being honest with yourself at that point, because you think your knowledge is something that can be used instead of something that flows through you. There's a difference, because when you start using it, it becomes too much like a law in your mind. And when it flows through you, it's just free. It's free. There's a difference.
So what we're actually saying today could be completely different than what we're going to say tomorrow, because we'll have had a new experience and we'll have fine-tuned some things.
Yeah, always. Again, I'll just use myself for the example. Like, when I first got into this, and I thought, whoa, I got gifts, and I got this, and I got that. I'm special, and I would look at people going, well, they're clearly not on their spiritual path, and they may be or they may not be, but the truth is that I will never know that. That's the truth, because their path is for them to be exactly where they are at that point. That is their path. So they're on it. They might be unaware of it. They might even be dragging their feet, but we've all had moments where we do that. So it's super humbling, and it's a much easier place to be in for me anyways, it's a much easier place to be, not having all that other useless thoughts in my process that are really more of a hindrance to me and everyone around me than it is. Even though I was trying to do good, I thought I was doing good, I thought I could make a difference, all of those thoughts, and I really wanted to make a difference. My heart was in the right place, like I was just really the guy skipping down the gold road. It didn't and that was my path too, right? That was mine. So it's a whole lot of accepting. I used to say to people, it's like, well, what kind of world do you want to live in? That dictate how you actually behave in this world. Simple question.
Mm-hmm.
Now that came out one day. I was in the car with someone, and I don't know, it was the driving stuff. Like, driving stuff seems to bring up stuff for people, right? And somebody walked when they weren't supposed to walk or whatever. It was just minor stuff, right? And it's laying on the horn and going like, what the fuck you doing? And the whole blah, blah, right? And I said, what kind of world do you want to live in? Right? And actually, I'm remembering it more clear now. It was actually me driving. And a teenager was walking across the street, saw me wanting to turn, and purposely started walking slower and dragging their feet. They're meandering because they had control. And my first reaction is like, get off the road, you idiot. You know, I did the dance. So it's totally my story. It's 100% me.
Right.
And then by the time they got to the sidewalk, I already got past it. I thought, whew, okay, what kind of world do I want to live in? You know, and I can't make anyone else answer that. You know, I can't even make me answer that some days because I don't really want to some days. But that's allowing space, allowing room, allowing them to do their dance. You know, like that teenager doing his little saunter across the road because he had power and control. He saw that I had too much coffee in me and I needed to get going and I was anxious. You know, I had my list of things to do. I had money to make, all of that sort of stuff.
He was the spirit for you at that
Yeah.
time. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, he brought up something in me that was something I, at that particular moment, didn't really want to face. But then when you get face to face with it, you know, there's no denying it then, right? It's like, oh, there it is. That was ugly. Ooh, you know.
Well,
Don't
so
you
did
think
you?
sometimes too, don't you think sometimes too that is part of the spiritual path to say, hey, look, you're being full of yourself and you're slowing other people down. Like
I can't even hardly hear you, Joan.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Like it's
He's just saying that so he doesn't have to listen. Okay, so just
this is me sauntering across the night.
see if you move closer to the mic.
Oh, she's up again.
So Joan,
calling just Joan. Are you there?
Joan's known me long enough. She's seen me do that dance a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's really difficult when you get on a spiritual path to actually, I think when we're looking at people and we have our judgment of people, that really is us because we judge ourselves. You know, we're not patient with ourselves. We don't, like, in our imperfectness, that's our perfectness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in our ugliness, that's our beauty. Like we talked about that the other day, Jacqueline. That's the real artwork. Because if not, every picture looks exactly the same. If there's a list of things that we have to do and accomplish to be a good spiritual person,
Mm-hmm.
then, and we all check off that list, this would be the most boring place ever. You know, I mean, like what would be the experience? It's like, oh, you checked your box today. Oh, me too. We're done.
Well, that's where I kind of feel like the last few years have really deepened the looking glass for those that want to look at themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, someone asked me the other day, is spirituality the new religion? And I was like, well, it almost seems for some it is.
Yeah, it's $1 billion industry.
Yeah, and it's that sense of we're a being versus a doing. And I was just thinking when you said, what type of world do you want that to be? That would be wonderful if instead of saying, hi, beloved, I'm Jacqueline. How are you? What do you do? Right? The question would be, hi, you know, what type of world do you want to live in? Right? Like that's the conversation that you open up when you meet somebody new and you share your visions, and it just, the heart starts to go down a different beat than where the mind may have been habitually trained.
I'm looking forward to our next tour and being somewhere, and I know you're going to walk up to people and say that to them.
You mean I'm not going to say like, hey, you know, like in the movies and there's a guy that comes into town and kind of changes the whole town? No, I'll say, hey, what type of world do you want to live in? And then after they answer that and go, the one with the movie where the guy comes into town? No.
I think that's exactly the question to ask the way to sort of walk your life is, what world do I want to live in? That's the exact right thing to keep in your heart and in your mind, because that's where we are in the evolution of this planet right now, is creating, a new world, creating a better world. That's and so to keep that in the forefront all the time, and to just be that, be what you want to see in the world, is what's going to bring it forth. And so that's the way to proceed, I guess, that I believe. And I was thinking about, so when how do you be, how can you be a good spiritual person? And I can see how somebody that's new to walking the spiritual path would think there's a bunch of guidelines to be, and I could see that. And I remember being that person, you got to be this way, and I'm not, and then coming to the realization that wherever I am in this moment right now, or how I'm feeling, just being authentic is being a good spiritual person. So if I feel like shit and I want to be angry and I want to be ornery, and I honor that, that's the best spiritual person I can be in that moment, because that's where I'm at, right? So there is no like, I need to, I don't know, be Zen all the time, or be what there is no spiritual rule book of you're a good spiritual person. But I could see how we fall into that trap. But realistically, it's just being authentic. It's being what you are. Whatever you're feeling, however you're being, however you feel like being, be that. That's the best thing you can do. And then keep that question in mind of, what world do I want to live in?
Yes, and then own whatever you do. Right? Good, bad, or indifferent. Own whatever you do. That's key.
Mm-hmm.
And I find we're coming from a world that's basically been subdued, and we've all surrendered parts of our spirit to the machine to be living in this world and all that sort of stuff. And this is about now owning it, right? Like not having your checklist. You get up, a good spiritual person meditates in the morning, smudges, says hi to all their neighbors with a big smile, and we have the checklist. So many people in their life are start just doing the checklist. So they're really focused on this and not this. And that it reduces it. Like, I think I shared that before. I was counseling this one woman who would read a book a week. I said, well, how many spiritual books have you read? Oh, I don't know, 1,000. I said, well, stop reading, start practicing. Like, that's your homework. Give up reading. And she looked at me like, God, give up reading. That's all my knowledge. And it's like, well, if you haven't practiced anything, then your 1,000 or 2,000 books are 100% useless. They're useless. So, and I didn't see her for a year. She come up and she goes, that was such good advice. I said, good, you're practicing. And I don't need to know what, I don't need to how, none of that stuff, because the lesson is in the practice, and the practice means you're not perfect each time. And there's always a little grain of sand more to learn. Sometimes it's a boulder, sometimes it's a grain of sand. Sometimes we're under the boulder at the end of the day. Sometimes we can lift the boulder at the end of the day. Some days we can't, and it's easy to laugh at all that stuff now. But when you're in the moment, it can be hard. It can be hard. It can be challenging.
Well, and we also don't like other people to see our flaws or what we consider our mistakes. So sometimes when those are brought up, you think, oh, that's a bad thing. And it's like, no, that's an honest thing. What happens in here is what makes it bad. If you're honest that, I make lots of mistakes, then when other people go, hey, Joan, you're being kind of a jerk, it's like, yeah, I can be a bit of a jerk sometimes. You're right. Shit, am I doing it again? Then it doesn't become, then they can be honest without all kinds of layers being added to it.
Yes.
Or it stops people from that plastic smile of, isn't the world beautiful? And it's like, no, sometimes it really sucks.
You can turn around and say to that person, you don't have to participate in me being a crappy person at the moment. it's your choice. Just let me have my moment, and then I'll get over it. And but you can just sit there and watch from the side. You don't have to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Tanya. Go ahead.
No, I was finished.
Okay. When Jacqueline and I were on the road when we did that tour, there was so many times one of us would say something that was clearly out of alignment, and we'd look at each other and go. I'd say to her so many times, "Don't say it, don't say it," and then we would just laugh. And it was, for me, joy-filled to be way less filtered. And for sure, you're just talking. There's always random statements that are totally misaligned with who, for me, I'd say a statement that would be fully misaligned with who I really am, and she wouldn't call me on it saying you got to change, but she would point it out and we would both laugh. And it went both ways, right? It went both ways.
No,
And
only your way.
I remember it a little different. I thought it was mostly your way, but I wasn't going to say it.
Well, that was it. Is I know I'd say something and I'd just look at him and I'd be like, yeah, that's mine, isn't it? Right? Like you'd just be like,
Yes.
You just were so aware of the stuff that didn't fit in the flow of, and it was the flow still, but it's like the river's going and then it's just you just notice some of the fine tuning that needs to happen within yourself.
And moved away from what Joan was talking about because we have shame. We have shame in things that are just really nothing. They don't really count for anything. I think it's growing up in the school system, I think really taught us a lot of that shame because, the kid that got 99% on the test, the only thing that went through their mind is like, oh my God, I missed 1%. And they have shame about the 1%. And the whole rest of the class had shame about the 99% that they missed. So, because the goal then is like perfection, and it's achievable. And I think the perfection, the real perfection and the real heartfelt rawness of each human being is the perfection. It's in motion. If it's in motion, that's the perfection. If it's not in motion, that's still perfection. We just can't notice that it's in motion. Or it's not a motion that we recognize.
I was thinking back on, sorry, Jacqueline. I was thinking back on what you were saying about Thunder Bear when you were driving and the kid walked across the road slowly and whatever. I used to, when I was driving, and someone would do something and I go, "What are you doing?" Have my bit of a rant, and then I'd sit there as I was driving along and I would flog myself mentally. I would just berate myself and go, "That's really not, you shouldn't be doing this, and you could have done that better." And I still do. This is sort of like, having the moments where you're sort of flowing in and out of your alignment. It's like I'll have days or moments where something will happen and I'll go like, rah, 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 rah. But instead of flogging myself, it's like I immediately recognize that I've done it. And I just go like, well, that was really judgmental, wasn't it? And I have a laugh at myself and it brings me back into being aware of what I've done. So now as much as I'm aware that I have my days of, or my feelings of, underlying that is like just this, not that there's a separation from, but it's sort of like my myself and my physical body is going blah 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 right. But my God self is sitting there having a bit of a chuckle at myself, behind all of it. So there's always this little bit of joy going like, well, I'm having a crappy day today, or I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling this, but in the back of me, I'm going like, I just love it. I love it because then I can recognize the difference between one and the other, and I'm enjoying that. So yeah.
That's a super great.
As you said, it's taking the shame out of it, and the judgment and the guilt and you should be doing it a certain way.
Yes,
That's
a lovely space to finally get into after years of buying your own relief about how shitty you can be as a human being.
Yes, yes, definitely.
And it's funny because in my experience, I would use the same words that I would berate myself with, but with a whole new perspective. It's like, whoa, I could have done that different. That was gnarly, And I used to always say, it's okay if you make a mess, but then just go clean it up. So if you spray it on someone, right, you go up to them and say, you know what? That had nothing to do with you. That had nothing to do with you. That was my stuff, and I'm sorry I got some on you. I'm sorry you stepped in it.
Yeah.
And I can just say though, for being a individual that still wanted to make it about me, when that was told to me by, oh, that was their stuff, it had nothing to do with you. You know, I'm like, I was still on, but just sprayed me, okay? Like, you know, it's all about me. I'm in this, even though you've owned it. Now I still want to like revel. You know, I couldn't give it up, right?
Yeah.
And that took me a long time to look at that for myself, to say that the ownership was there, but I still had to make it wrong. I couldn't just be okay with it happened and it's gone. And they'd gone through it so quickly. I think that's what gets some people, is when you get to the point where you can observe your habits and your outbursts, and you go, oh yeah, wow, that was wicked. Woo. Okay, back here, let's get present. And they go, no, I'm still on you being wicked.
Listen, I had an experience where you were talking about it's all about me, right? But I got sprayed. So back in the early days, not so long ago, maybe 20 years ago, I was all about random acts of kindness. And there was a woman in my neighborhood, an older woman, and she would walk every day, and I would see her walk. And it was very, very hot, very hot. So I stopped and I purchased a bottle of water. And now I'm going to be Miss Do-Gooder, spirit lady, right, the angel. I'm going to help this woman. So she's walking, and I drive and I slow down. All I want to do is offer her a drink. But as I'm slowing down in my car, she's speeding up. And I'm thinking, oh, that's so odd. I'm just trying to offer her a drink. So I drive a little farther. She goes a little faster. It took me so long to realize my good intention was scaring the heck out of her, you know? And I'm thinking, but wait, I'm doing good here. I'm doing good. And she's thinking, oh my God, this maniac red-haired woman is trying to run me over. And it's hard sometimes when there are two things going on like that. It's like, and then learning to put myself in the other's shoes and see, okay, wow. And afterwards I thought, oh my goodness, that must have been so frightening for her. And talk about the shame, right? Oh my God, how could I have done that? Oh my, I was just trying to be good. Now I scared her and I'm not doing it right. And all of that played in, every bit of it. And it does, or it can. So I've certainly experienced that also. Now I try to be more open and understanding, and that was being really pushy. I mean, I was being spiritually pushy.
Yeah.
Okay, who hasn't been spiritually pushy? Put their hand up. You've never been spiritually pushy. How was that? See, I was just seeing if you're listening. Okay. So.
In the last 5 minutes, I haven't been.
I feel like that's kind of a stage that I've noticed, that it's like you learn something new and you go, oh, did you know? And you want everybody to get what you've got, right? And it's like you're so excited by it, and then you're like shaking them.
You just want to share your joy with them.
It's kind of a definition of a spiritual teacher, isn't it?
A guru.
Yes.
I went around trying to save everyone for a long time, thinking I'd learn something, and then I could see people and see what they're struggling with, and thinking I had their answers and trying to force my answers down their throat, or not, not necessarily that bad, but yeah, that's pushing your spirituality on people.
Yeah.
And then you come to the realization at some point you can't save anyone. And the best thing you can do for anyone is to focus on yourself. And what kind of world do I want to live in?
And then heaven help you if people listen to you, because then you've taken on their spiritual growth.
Oh yeah, then they want more, and then they bring their friends over, and like, holy crap! Before you know, you're helping everyone. It's like, oh, hold on a second, I didn't want this.
I used to have a way to justify that. You guys will love this story. I used to, judge them as like, oh, they're in the darkness. I need to enlighten them. Right? And I used to use the analogy, well, if you live under a rock and the first thing I do is lift the rock off you, that light's going to burn your eyes and you'll hate me. And it's like, what a justification. So if they hated you, it's like, they're still in the darkness.
Yeah.
Because of course we're in the light and we know everything. Yeah.
And don't I feel good about myself now?
Yes.
Well, as much as there's a narrative out there right now that seems to think that the world has got divided views, right? I think that is a habit of divide and conquer, right? Divide things. I mean, there is the contrast. Instead of just seeing it's contrast and you need the contrast, it's like it's right or it's wrong. And I feel like that's what the world is healing. And that's what, kind of this point of this conversation is that for people to see that we each have different perspectives. We have different stories. And it's all fine. And we can own it and we can laugh about it and we can commiserate with our shame and our guilt for a while and, hold on to them with dear life sometimes, because it's like, well, what would it be like if I had no guilt? Right? What would it be like if I had no shame? What if I was just responsible for my actions all the time? What type of world do I want to live in? Right? Like, it changes the whole way one perceives and operates. And I think that's why you want to still hide under the rock, because it's just not time yet to come out and play. Everybody's got to be in the right time, right place.
Yeah.
That's my perspective.
I believe that we each have sort of a reason for incarnating onto the earth, and we're all here to have different experiences, and so I'm here to have, I chose, or my spirit chose to live this life to have certain experiences, and somebody else chose to incarnate to have their experiences, and I can't say that my experiences are better than theirs, and I can't know what somebody else is here to accomplish or do or live or experience. So I can't tell somebody how to live their lives because I don't know what they came here to do. Only they know, and that's somewhere inside of them. So they have to, we all have to figure out what we're here to accomplish or do or experience, and be authentic about experiencing it and be okay with experiencing. Maybe somebody came here to have a really shitty life, and that's what they need to experience, and I just got to be okay with that because that's the best thing for them. I don't know the difference. I don't know what they're here for, and so sort of allowing everyone to go through what they're going through, and holding space for that and honoring that is I don't know, respect. It's I think the best. Just look at work on yourself and think about figure out what you want to accomplish and what life you want to live in, and then have the respect to let others have the experiences they want to live.
Mm-hmm.
If I take it a step further, I think the Earth is a great big galactic experiment that we all, beings from all over the galaxy, came here to live, to incarnate on the planet so that we can figure out how to get along. I think it's a big experiment so that we can figure out how to get along with all our differences, because I think there's beings on the planet from all around the galaxy and the universe, and we're all different, and we all have And the purpose of this whole place is to see if we can get along.
Wow, White Warrior, those ideas are pretty far out, you know.
You didn't find any of those ideas under a rock.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm grateful for myself. I'm actually proud of myself for sharing that.
Yes, no.
Because I usually keep that stuff for like closed circles, but I really do believe that. So here we go. I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm out of the
you're
spiritual
out.
closet, guys.
You're done. You're good. You graduated.
Well, I think that's the you know, as Joan was saying about sitting on the steps and already noticing she's different, but like to have that awareness and to be at that young of an age and to be okay with it. I think a lot of people do the opposite. They shut down, right? And they try to fit in. They don't honor their unique gifts and attributes. But maybe none of you guys were like that. Maybe you all just stepped into who you were.
Yeah.
No, I definitely shut it down.
Me too. Yeah.
I reckon, like, I'm similar to Joan. Like, I couldn't tell you when I was first aware of, because I was. It would be more fair to say that my first memories, I remember, I was encouraged to be aware of with my mum. You know, I saw and felt things differently, but my experiences with people and not knowing how to process them or how to navigate being how I felt with people who didn't feel like that, and feeling like there was only me in that moment, you know, who felt like that. So I did turn it off. So it's always still been there. I've always been aware of it, but I've been aware that I've sort of put it on mute for a while, more so than anything else, and then played the normal person, because it was easier. It was less hurtful. So yeah, now it's lovely to be able to sit and have the conversation like this with people that go, yes, this is quite natural to do this, and yeah, and everyone said everything that I felt like, so good on you. I take a little bit from all of you, thanks.
I've always been out there. So, but I was always really nice and really sweet. So I got away with all of that stuff. My mother used to say, "Where did you come from?" And I can remember being in 6th grade and a science teacher was explaining the Big Bang Theory and the planets. And another friend and I said, that's not the way this happened. I said, "What do you mean that's not the way it happened?" "Nope, not the way it happened." And we started to say things, and our teacher was wonderful. Our teacher said, "Would you like to do a presentation on your understanding?" So we did this huge presentation. I mean, we had these colored lights and films that went on the lights, all the planets, all the things. We stood in front of that class and said, this is not the way this happened. The books that you're reading are not true. Like one story, one explanation. And I've never learned to keep quiet. You know? I mean, I never learned that. And, you know, I do a lot of festivals. I open a lot of festivals, especially for the new generation. And I remember being at a festival, and the woman that I do so much work with, planetary work with, after I finished, said, "I have never heard you do that publicly." I said, "Yeah, I never have." But I said, I'm on stage, and I said, "Okay, so do you know where your home planet is?" I said, "Actually, I came in Sirius, Venus, the Hathors, the Magdalene, in." And she just looked at me and said, "I can't, you've met." I said, I don't know. I never did that before. Never done it since. But well, maybe now.
It's a new definition of coming out of the closet that we're starting tonight. Yeah, there you go.
Coming out of the universal closet.
Yes,
I
right.
guess it is. But
So Sirius wasn't you were being serious. Sirius was the planet or the star. Sirius is the star, right? Like that. You can go just for those that are like got caught on Sirius. They're like, what's she serious about, right? Like they're just.
Isn't that commercial-free radio?
That can be next week's topic. Which planet are you from?
See, there you go, Jacqueline. That could be what kind of world do you want to see, and what planet are you from?
Yes. Instead of saying you're from Florida or you're from Toronto or so, it's like I'm from Sirius. I'm from I'm from I don't know that I don't know.
I got a story I'd like to share.
Okay.
I went fasting in the First Nations tradition here in Canada. So it was in Ontario. So 4 days, 4 nights, I go sit on top of this sacred mountain, and I got there really late, and I set up my lodge, and I got in there, and it was getting dark already. There was going to be there was a storm coming, and I didn't know this. I wasn't from the area. It felt really ominous to me. I thought I'm just going to get in my lodge and sleep off the first night, and start fresh in the morning. I couldn't find any of my, I wasn't unpacked yet. I couldn't find my flashlight, nothing. And I hear this voice in my head that says, get in your sleeping bag. Okay, I get in my sleeping bag. And as soon as I get in my sleeping bag, the lodge starts to lift up off of the ground. And I'm seeing sort of the branches of the trees and going up and up and up. And then I was like sitting in my lodge, kind of like in a dream when you're willing yourself to fly, in a dream when you're flying and you're willing yourself to go higher. I was like that. I was willing the lodge to go up. And then now I could see the top of the trees and I could see the whole forest. And I thought, wow, this is cool. And all of a sudden I went whoosh, and I'm looking back at the earth. And the earth is huge, big, beautiful blue colors were like dazzling. I could see the oceans and all the continents and the clouds, and it was awesome and beautiful. And I remember asking, why am I being shown this? And as soon as I asked the question, it went whoosh again. And now the earth is just like 1 point of light. And then there's these 7 points of light all around. There was 4 on the other side of the earth and 3 on my side of the earth. And they were golden. They were all gold, and they were all connected by a bridge of light. And I remember asking, what is this? What am I being shown? And as soon as I asked that question, I went whoosh right into the nearest point of light to me. And I was in there, and my eyes were closed, and it was so bright it hurt. I couldn't open my eyes. It was just the brightness it hurt. And slowly, after a few minutes, I started to sense thousands, millions of beings in there. And then I sensed them first, and then after a little bit, I could start to see all of these beings in this place. And then I woke up, and I was in my lodge again. And the intention for my fast, the reason I went fasting, was because I was moving back from out west back to the East Coast, and I knew in my family's ancestry I had Native origins, I had Native blood, and I wanted to know if it was Maliseet or Mi'kmaq. I wanted to know. So the fast, my intention was, who are my ancestors? That was the intention of my fast. And my human head thinking Mi'kmaq or Maliseet, and they showed me who my ancestors were in my spiritual ancestors. So it took me the next 4 days to figure that out. But eventually I realized that I'm Palladian.
Yeah, the 7 sisters.
Yeah, that's my ancestry.
Okay, so did any of you like smoke anything before you came to this call?
I'm coming all out of the
Okay.
universal closet tonight.
Okay, all right. So these are actually real life experiences that we're sharing, and this is how normal they are. That's what I want to make the point is. A lot of people will just think that you're whacked.
I am whacked. That's okay.
Yeah, no, but no, that's the experiences, right? Like the more we share
It's
about
my
what our experiences are and how different they are than what we've been educated and indoctrinated. I think it's fabulous, beloved. At grade 6 could get up there and say, no, this is the truth, right? And that your teacher would let you, because generally speaking, most people have, the teacher's like, this is it, this is the way it is. So that's what I see, that you're the more coming out, that's just coming out of what we've been holding back.
I think it's time. I may have told this story, 5-6 times in my life, and it was 15 years ago. So I think it's time that we come out and share our spiritual experiences and who we are and who we believe, and as we read, it's time to remember who and what we are. That's the time. And the more that we share that with others, the more these conversations become normal.
That's it.
Yes,
That's
I
it.
like the teaching of psychologists and all that stuff are trained to think that's just your imagination. And I always say, okay, where's your imagination come from? And then they give me this big, long story of all your experiences. You read it, you saw it on TV, and like they have the checklist, and they're reading off the checklist of what it took for you to have that experience, and they explain it all away, and it makes perfect logical sense to them. And then they close the book saying it was just your imagination. And if you keep that up, we'll put you on drugs and lock you up.
Except if your imagination leads to a technological corporate giant that people can make money off of, and then we're really glad you imagined the things you imagined.
Yes, then you can have as much money as you want when you tap into that. That's what I think most of the prosperity books are really talking about.
There's more to who we are than what we've been led to believe, and it's time we remember ourselves for who we truly are.
Yeah.
And I think it's that thought that, like you're saying with the imagination, that like if you delve into that a bit further, and that our whole reality, like every person, even you and me and Joan and beloved, we're all each other's imagination. We've all imagined each other. Every animal, every tree, every rock, every single thing that we come in contact with in our lifetime is just our imagination, because that's how we want it. That's the experience that we've created for ourselves to go through and experience this, and the highs and the lows and the ups and the happies and the sads and all of it. It's all just imagination, And when we talk about being that we are the creator, it's like, well, fuck, I've made this, every single bit of it. And it's just like, you put that to people and they go like, yeah, you should be committed. You're nuts. But it's not. We've all created it, But when you start to see the not so nice parts of the world and the not so nice experiences and the traumatic things, and people go, well, I didn't create that, and that's sort of where I feel on some level the divide comes in, because it all starts with you. And if you, for me, from my experience, I'll talk only from my experience, but everything in the world is my creation, even that horrible stuff. And at the end of that, I acknowledge that and I recognize that, and I'm okay with that, because what's the point of me flogging myself over something that I've made, but and I don't choose, I no longer choose to be divided in myself, is how I feel about it. Again, it comes back to, how do I choose to make my world? to this point, my world has had whatever's going on in it to this point, and now we're becoming more, everyone in their own creations of this world, is they're becoming more conscious of what they're choosing now, and this is where it's all changing. It's like a visual, it's like watching a movie and you're seeing the plot change right in front of you. The world is changing, the way that people are perceiving it is changing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my perception of it. And if we change the word from divide to perception, the world is divided. If you change it, instead of saying the world is divided, but the world is, and you inserted perception, it has a different feel to it.
Yes, I just sort of shifted a perception yesterday. I have to answer that question, why I would create having them there, but probably because I have this inner creation going on that says the world is breaking down, right? Everybody is having their own experiences. And I do have great faith in the younger generation. And so there were these two young correctional officers that pulled up beside me, and we probably talked for half an hour. And by the time we'd done, their head was so filled with spirit and possibility. It was no longer the reframe from them feeling, how is it that I inherited all these hundreds of years of problems that I'm going to have to deal with in my job? To, I said, what if you're the solution that we've been waiting for? I go, you young people know how to find answers on social media. Like, that's what you do. You keep looking and searching until you find what it is you want. And the guy immediately got it. Like, he's like, it's the question. I said, ask a better question, you get a better answer. Stop asking, why did that happen? Why did those people do this? How did we get into this mess? And start saying, what can we do to make this better, to change it? I said, you've got visions, you've got ideas inside you, right? You're the future. If you see it as that way, instead of feeling you inherited this crap, right? It gives you that, I think, freedom to say, okay, what type of world do I want to create? Right? And that's a sense of like, what, I like to say sometimes, if you had 3 wishes, right? The old genie thing. If you had 3 wishes right now, what would they be? And I'm amazed at how many people have to just sit and think, right? And then they go, are the wishes just for me? Or is it for the world? It's like, ooh, open-ended question. And I'm the center of the answer. And it's like, it's like their head is throbbing. That's what it feels like, as they're like, oh, what's the right answer? World peace, like Miss Universe says.
Can I add to that just while you're talking about that? I could probably answer that for you, because we have an ad on TV. This is a bit of a jokey thing. We have an ad on TV where this woman is sitting there, and she's got a genie, and she's got her 3 wishes, and she just wishes for an endless pack of Tim Tams. So maybe just start with the Tim Tams.
2 years ago, we've been a roll of toilet paper.
An endless roll.
Never have to change it.
I want to add something to what Frederick was saying about, like, he had his whole idea of why we're here and all that sort of stuff. And this is just my belief on this, and I'm okay if I'm wrong, totally. Joan knows, like, I go around hoping when I see something that's, I think is going to be really challenging for people, I hope I'm wrong. And it's like, I don't know anyone who prays to be wrong in their vision more than me. I haven't met that. Most people want to be right in some weird way, and it's like, I'm okay to be wrong. But anyways, I believe that, I'm not sure on the timeline, but we were literally a creation. And I think we were placed here to mine the gold on the planet, but the creation was so good that it could hold the light from any being anywhere. That's why we have different people who don't belong here anymore, because this vessel, the way that we generated, the way that we generated human. Okay, that's weird, but yeah, it was generated so perfectly well that we could express light. And that was kind of, that wasn't an intent, but that's what happened. And they were like, I've been reading ancient history stuff about the, Gilgamesh and Enki and all that sort of stuff. And I've just been fascinated with that stuff. And like, so I have no proof of whatever I'm saying. I just watch stuff, and what comes up comes up. And that's just how it works. And then I'm okay if it's wrong. I'm okay if no one likes it or not like. But I think that this vessel and how we recreate as humans from all the materials of the earth actually has a ability to shine light. And I think that's what we're discovering right now on the planet, is people are starting to shine light, and it does scare them a little bit. It does scare them a little bit, and we're being put into a position where we have to really shine our light, else we're going to really fall into the dark. And that's just a choice that we're having right now. And I think every human being, and it's not limited to like an intelligence level, an awareness level, or any of that, all these bodies, literally our physically bodies, are able to admit light, share light. And that's it. That's just it. It's that simple. Even though that sounds like a far out story to get here, but we were created, and like in that, some of the texts that I was researching online and stuff and looking at, that is the first great flood was, we're done with these things. These things are not capable of anything other than what we created them for. And there was a divide right there, because the ones that did the original ark, this is long, Noah was technically an alien, and that story has been repeated by every major culture everywhere. It's not owned by anyone, it's owned by everyone. And so there was the one female energy that was involved in the creation of us that wanted to save us. So she stayed with her male counterpart, and they saved the human race from the first flood. And that's where they talk about in the Indian text. What's that called? The ancient Indian text. They talk about
Vada Vita, that one.
No, there's another one before that, I think. Anyways, they talk in that often about the fight that was in the sky.
That's right.
Right, and this is all the same fight. It was about those that thought we were worthless and not worth the time, and those that thought, oh my God, what we created is so amazing. Wait till you see what they do. And so we're entering the age right now. This is it right now of, oh my God, I can't believe what they can do. And it's going to happen. It's happening. It's happening. And that's why when we talked earlier about different spirits, there's still some energies that that think we're a waste of time. That still exists. And I know it's hard to believe because, in the spiritual thing, and we all are one, they are part of the one, but they have a different view of the one than what we have. And that energy is the same energy that lives in humans too, because it was part of the creation. So that energy still lives in us. And that's why all the ones that are taking advantage now and trying to gain more control, and they create wars because they don't think we really matter. They create wars and all that stuff, and they'll do a bit, injection experiments and that type of thing, right? So it's everything that White Warrior was saying, and that.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and I'm not a historian. I have zero proof other than that's what I get. When I research stuff, I feel stuff, and that's what comes up, and I just share it, and that's just it. I remember years ago, I said to my sister when she became born again, I said to her, I said, okay, you read that passage, you think it means this. I said, I read that passage, I think it means that. I said, who gets to decide who's right? And the answer is nobody. But in her mind, I said, and you can have 1 million of your friends agree with you, that still doesn't make you right. And she's like, meltdown, meltdown, you know. It wasn't fun for her to be my sister for a couple of years.
Well, I think that concept of having a million people agree with you is what happened, March 2020, right? Like, it's the sense of everybody got triggered of however they needed to get triggered. And I just received something about the National Citizens Movement. Okay, that was it. National Citizens Movement doing their own inquiry. And the kicker that I had was individuals and experts. And I was like, so they're just doing the same thing, but in a different manner, right? It's the experts again that are going to tell you what's really going on. And it's like, in yourself, you have your own compass, right? You have your own compass of, does that feel true to you? Resonate with you, just like you said, and to be able to trust that when a million people are saying, no, you're wrong, and you're like, that's okay, because this is what feels true to me. I feel that's the type of world that I want to create. I want to have individuals that I see that are okay being different, that are okay with their part. Mm-hmm. And I like to use the analogy of a great big disaster movie, like an actor that signs up for a role that does play the Joker, in the movie. Like, there are people that play roles, and that's what makes the movie, right? Harry Potter, I feel, was a good example of that sense of, Voldemort was still in Harry Potter. Like, was Voldemort going to get the best of Harry Potter? Was Harry Potter going to overcome what was in his mind? This is the journey of us, to be accepting of what we experience and be able to stand on our own and respect and honor that everybody can have a different perspective. And it's okay, because it makes the whole, right? And is it ever really dark out when the stars are shining, or the planets for that matter? Like, they're very bright.
Yes, scientifically, the space between all matter is dark.
Yes.
So the vast majority of everything, like it's 99.99 to a million times, that's how much percentage of darkness is out there. And we look at it, and with our limited human eyes, the spectrum that we see is somewhere around less than a tenth of the actual colors that exist.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a scientist or a researcher. She was in North Carolina, and she was talking about dark matter. It was on a little radio show, and she's like, so, and I'm not sure perfect of the numbers, but the numbers were so small. It's like, so we know that maybe 20% of the dark matter acts like this. And based on that, we have 5 different hypotheses of how the universe goes. We don't know what the other 80% does, but that's okay, because based on the 20, we figure it's like this, and this is what we're going to educate everybody based on those things. And I was just like, do they hear themselves? Right? Like, do they?
They're the experts. You froze, Jacqueline.
I feel like we are at Alice's tea party lately. Things are just getting sillier and sillier and madder as people begin. And I look at it as an opportunity for people to really find themselves, and what works for each person. Because, as everyone's been saying, each of us are here on our own journey. And just because I believe that, this was how I arrived here, doesn't mean that's how you arrived here. Or because I believe that everything comes from one source, it doesn't mean you have to believe that. But the thing is about respecting. And the more, I use the term awakening. And in my perspective, people are awakening so quickly that some people, this is the way I see it, some people want to keep holding on to what they have. And, it's like we're on a tightrope or something. We've got all these people that are awakening and to whatever they are. And then other people that just want to hold on to whatever is there because the status quo is known. So for a lot of people, there's safety in that. There's comfort in that rather than moving to the unknown. So some of the things that are happening, in my opinion, are just silliness. I mean, I really feel like I'm in Alice's Mad Hatter Tea Party. And if I can look at it that way,
Right.
for me, that's very comforting. If I look at the news, I go, more silliness, more silliness, more silliness. And I could just see them hopping down the table, right? With big cups of tea. And it's like, I did a post like that, and I'm rarely on social media. And a friend of mine responded and said, Alice, can I join you at your tea party? Love, Dorothy. And it's like, yeah. I mean, it's just, but for me, I need to be able to see the humor in it. I need to be able to step back and look at what's happening on our planet as light-hearted, because I believe that the light is coming forth, that and that hearts are opening. And for me, that's what it's all about, is heart, just being in our hearts and respecting one another. I'll use the language living from my soul heart. And if I'm in my soul heart, I can't do anything but look at another person with respect and honor them and treat them the golden rule, right? Treat them well. They're on their journey. So when I look at people, that's how I see people. It's just their soul heart. And it's like, interesting. Interesting being part human. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
It might be stuck to you.
Good point.
I think that's. Go
ahead.
Yeah, I'll go briefly. I'm surprised at how much we haven't talked about. It really comes down to listening to your own intuition. Listening, because we're talking about the courage of following spirit, but that really comes down to listening to that inner voice. That's how spirit's talking to you. It's coming. It's from inside of you, right? So, just figuring out, learning. That's what I was trying to say at the beginning, like developing that relationship with that inner voice, with that intuition. Call it what you want, with your heart. I like heart soul. That was a beautiful way of saying it. Like learning to listen to that place inside of you that is connected to source, that is connected to divinity, that is connected to all. Like that's the place that has all the information, that it's connected to source and it's inside of you. Like, why would you listen to this? With that's only has like your past experiences. This has everything. All of the universe is so teaching. For me, that's what I love to do. I love to guide people. I like the word teach, to listen to themselves. Because that I think that's the best contribution I can make to the world. Plus, I just love teaching. So teaching people to listen to themselves is my biggest passion. And as we're talking about here, it's just like listen to your own intuition. Learn to trust it. Learn what it feels like, because it's a little bit different for everyone. Some people may feel it in here. Some people may feel it in here. Some people it may be a twinge. Some people it may be fear. Some people it can be different. It is different for everyone. So we have to figure out for each other, for ourselves, what our own spirit feels like, our own intuition feels like, and learn to follow it. And yeah, that's all I got to say on that.
Nice.
That's my story. Sticking to that.
I like
Go ahead.
watching science programs, and I was watching this one where this guy was trying to figure out how things circumnavigate the Earth and go to the same place all the time. And I forget what he started with, but he was doing like turtles and fish and seabirds, and he discovered that there was actually a bar of magnetic material in every cell, 13 bars actually. And he was going on about, and so they actually are sensitive to the Earth, and so for them it's not weird, they're just following the magnetic lines, and it's like a map. And that vibration thing, they're going back and forth, and it goes, it's like, hotter, colder, hotter, colder, hotter, colder, and they go and they navigate. And he was going on and on about it, and like he was a real scientist. He had nothing to do with spirit. I'm going, okay, take it one step further. Have you looked for that in humans? And I'm cheering the TV on, going, come on, go to humans, study humans. They have it too, and that's,
Yeah.
I believe we do, and that's the thing where we know each other. That's the communications. That's the psychic abilities. All of that stuff, and that we've been trained to ignore that. And I think with all the food and all the stuff, right, all the pollution, all that stuff helps dull that vibration. But any given moment, it can still break through, no matter what the circumstance, it can still break through, and the awareness of it can come through. And that's also my story, and I'm sticking to it. That was part of that creation that was given to us,
Yeah.
is that ability that we have it, and science will prove that at some point, or not.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we're still looking for somebody else to prove it.
It's easier.
in like the native colors, right? It's usually yellow is the color for the East. And one of our good friends, the chief, he said that he was told by his chief before he passed on that their color for their nation was red in the East, but he never knew why. And today I was having a conversation with somebody about the same idea, like the stories of the Great Flood are in every whatever we want to call it, everybody's ancestry somewhere. I remember someone saying, but the world spun, and he said, yeah, the world spun around and changed directions. And when he said that, I was like, that makes, like, because I was feeling that the reason they're red was usually in the West is in the East is they must have come from the West, but they're in the East, right? So logically, it's like, how does that work? But then I was like, oh, if the world spun and they really were originally from the West, right? It's like originally, why were we all here, right? Originally, before all the stories were made up of what went down, it just is, is anybody ever going to prove that? Like, how do you ever prove that? But it's this sense of that actually resonated with me. And that's, what goes on from there, I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's how it works for me. Like, I'll hear something just like that, Jacqueline. I'll hear it just like that, and it'll go, yes, very clear. It's like, yes, okay, I buy it.
And in the end, none of it matters, because it's like, what do we want to create from here? It does matter, but it doesn't matter at the same time. We can have all the creation stories we want, and I think they have a place, and they're important. I'm not dismissing them, but in reality, what's more important is I think is, what world do we want to create now?
Yes. Well, and people ask that a lot, and I know I have some Indigenous friends, and they're enjoying their rebirth and gaining some respect and all that, and I'm grateful for that, and I am absolutely grateful for the red race. They've helped me so much. So I'm not ditching that, but I think where we're going is someplace that we have yet to experience. and it's beyond most people's imagination. And like I believe it's beyond my imagination, because it's everything that we've ever experienced since the beginning of time, plus more. And whatever that plus more is that's in our hands. That's in our hands. And what are we going to do with that? Are we going to stay open and move forward? Are we going to go forward with our rock solid knowledge of everything that happened? Right?
Right.
If we move forward, we can have all that knowledge and stay open, and we will experience that, and whatever that is. And I think in a lot of religious cultures, that it will be something equivalent to the euphoria. It's going to be out there. It's going to be out there. So,
well, let's finish off with each sharing something that's obviously in your imagination now, even though we're going to go beyond our imagination, of where would you like the world to go? What is the world you wish to create? And then we'll just speak it, be it, finish it off, and poof, and so it is. Everybody gets quiet
I
outside.
feel that.
Oh my gosh, I've got to create.
I feel that we're going towards, Christ consciousness, unity consciousness, unconditional love. I think that as we wake up to who we truly are, and we, because I believe that we're all from one source, and that that one source is all of us, and everything that has life in the universe is that's what source is. It's everything that has life, and source energy is experiencing all of it through all of us. And that as we sort of wake up to that realization, we're elevating our awareness, our consciousness towards unity consciousness, towards more of a interconnected awareness. And so to even imagine having a thought of hurting somebody else is becomes impossible, because you instantly know that you're only hurting yourself. And so to actually live in that place of even having the imagination of having a thought of hurting somebody is unfathomed, not possible. It doesn't make, then what? Imagine what that world would be like. Like I can't even have a negative thought about somebody, because I know intuitively that that's just hurting myself. And so that's what I see that world being. And I like, I think that's what the Christ story is that awareness that we're all connected, that we're all one. So I like Christ consciousness, or unity consciousness, or and above. I know there's way more that my silly human brain can't even fathom yet, and I'm open to all of it. But there's my vision.
I think for me, there's two things I kind of want to say. Yes, I agree with White Warrior. That all resonates with me, and that feeling into that. And I like how I'm thinking of it is that as we've worked, Jacqueline, what do we put into what emotions, and what is it that we're feeling behind everything, that like our perception of things, and that going back to that division and feeling that everything is divided, and changing that perception that division is a negative thing. We're all, if you want to think of, we've all got a separate perception of, then that's sort of like a perceived division of, but we're all one. We're all experiencing our own divided perceptions of our experiences, and yet we're one. So I feel into that, the change that we're all becoming aware of, that there is a division in a negative way, but the potential and the positive perspective that we can have that difference of opinion and difference of experience and still be okay and still be in unity of that. And the other thing I was thinking of while we were having this conversation, if I can read it through, and this is sort of ties in how I'm feeling on this, is I came across a little video the other day, and it's like a little bit along a religious line, but I enjoyed the way that it was worded, because this is how I feel, and this is, I'll just explain it to you. It was a man was talking about sort of God, or the name of God, and like Yahweh, and like the letters was YH and WH, but then because being that we're people, this is how it's explained, we like to put vowels in it, so it was the A and the E was added, so it's Yahweh, right? And he said that when Moses had the courage to ask God what his name was, it's like in the Bible it says I am, so I am present, sort of thing, but in Hebrew it's Yahweh, right? And the YH and the WH represents the breathing sounds, the in breath and the out breath. And the way that it was explained was that when a child is born, the first breath in is the first is the Yah, that's the breath in, and that is God. The first breath in and the last breath out is always God, in and out. And that's how I really enjoy that feeling of that, because every breath that I take is a God breath. And that's how I envision the world, that we're aware of that and we're more connected to that. So, there you go. There's my story.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Web.
Beautiful.
So, beloved Thunder Bear, don't, who's going to go?
I'm sorry. So what I'd like to see is, as both of you have said, I would like to see humanity coming together and understanding that all are one, that we're a family, not family that bickers, but a family that's cooperative and cares for one another. If one person has no shelter, none of us have shelter. If one person is hungry, no person is fed. You know, that we need to care for one another. My feeling. And the other big thing for me is the planet. For me, it's important that we understand the planet does not belong to us. She is a living being. And this is my rant. The audacity that we believe we can cut down trees and there's no consequence, that everything is a give and take. That, I mean, it's, hello, this is our mother. Put your foot on her, you can feel her, she's alive. So my dream and what I really want is to go back to a symbiotic relationship with the mother, with the earth, and with one another. Mutual respect, caring, but the earth has to be a big part of it for me, the planet, and all the animal kingdoms, the birds, everything. That's what I want.
Absolutely. Because it's in us and all around us. It's not just us.
That's it. That's it. You know the old song about cut down a tree to put up a parking lot?
Yes.
The big yellow taxi took away that one, right?
Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
I feel like all the cement is bandages on the mother through the whole thing. It's time to take them off.
It's a good lead in for how you feel about roads, Thunder Bear.
I actually try to avoid what I think I want for this part of the conversation. I think what's actually happening is we are being handed full responsibility for our actions, and it will be what we create of it. You know, back to that it's funny how that was even said. So what kind of world do we want to live in? So whatever that is, I think is beyond my imagination. So I don't want to limit it. You know, I think I agree with everything all of you said, and we still haven't got to the plus part. And I think it'll be beyond our wildest imaginations because I think we're being offered a seat at the table of full co-creation. And should we choose to accept that mission and do our own work for ourselves, and it is just for ourselves, and get that work done, and then sit down at that table with hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, what do we do with that? Where does that go? You know, it can only be someplace spectacular. It can only be someplace that it will create, like it will create stuff that we can't even sit here and ponder, like, because it's hard to imagine that. Like, I have so much appreciation for just this handful of people right here. um, I can't even imagine that much appreciation being carried by the entire planet. Like, I think I would spend the first week crying every day. I'd be just so overjoyed and overrun with emotion, and that I'm even feeling it right now, actually. So what will it be is something I just can't wait to experience. And I mean, I could repeat every word that all of you guys said, and I know, and I believe that's all something to do with it, but it's so far beyond that. You know, and I think we're only allowed to carry what we think, because what it will be, it's like the first time when you feel the light. You know, the first time the voice speaks to you, the first time you trust, and you know you're trusting the right voice. And it's like all of those times 1,000. And like I got tears coming down my face right now. So it kind of, I long for the day. I've spent many lifetimes waiting for this day. You know, I too know that I'm not from here, but I did a little different route than most people. I got mad. I got angry. Just make it really quick. I was really pissed that I was born here to teach my parents something. I thought as a kid, I was going, I got hosed. They were supposed to be here. and I just really, I was angry. I was really angry for a lot of years. So that's okay. That's okay. But that's, my journey was a little different that way. So yeah, I think it's going to be a heartfelt space that is like something we really can't even imagine. So whatever that is, I welcome it. You know, and I'm doing the best that I can. Most days there's still a few things I got to check off my checklist that I know I need to address and be a bit more honest with in my own life. You know, and I'm okay with that. Right today, I'm okay with that. Tomorrow, maybe not. But today I'm okay with that. So with that, I love you guys.
I love you all too. Woo.
I love you better. No.
I love you.
Not possible.
Yeah. So I just want to say that whatever is going to come to be, it is going to be greater than anything that we've shared here, right? It's from fine little details of like looking at a flower and how intricate, like a sunflower is, and how creation is so perfectly organized already, yet most people have been trained only to see what needs to be fixed. And that perception on its own, I feel, is shifting. So when you start to see the beauty of our mother, right, of what gives us, nurtures us every single day. And I've heard you say a few times, Greg, like every profession comes and benefits from the planet. Like nothing, what anybody thinks, I'm just a coach. I don't do anything. I don't cut trees. I don't do. You're still getting benefits from this planet, and this is our mother. This is what nurtures us. And when we recognize that the land is just as important as the sky, and that's where I am. I'm sort of on my journey. Is like I used to just kind of think everything was up there in the planets, and it's becoming more and more within me to see the depths of what is beneath the surface even of the earth. Mm-hmm. And that awakening of what's below and not just above is like reorganizing itself within every perception that I have. And so I feel like that's really what's going on with each of us. So as much as we share today, this is what we're saying today. And then tomorrow we'll go, I could have said that. And we're okay with that. And being okay with being angry, being okay with forgetting, being okay with what everybody is being, because we are beings. It truly is. It already is. From my perspective, it already is an awesome world. And I'm amazed and awed every day at how people are opening their hearts.
Yes. I think a lot of people had to experience that division and experience the anger that was caused by all the stuff that's going on for them to look inward, going like, where the hell did that come from?
That's it.
I'm usually not that person. Mm-hmm. And then own it. It's okay.
And one of the things that's still in my imagination that I'm looking forward to people owning for themselves is owning that they made a choice instead of saying that they were forced into a choice over the, since March 2020. I had to do it. And it's like, no, we all had choice. We all had choice for everything we did. And I think it was Michael Bernard Beckwith, I heard him say that he was addressing a bunch of yoga people, and he was saying, so you're all talking about being one. Were you one in the great lockdown of all the healthy people? Like, were you being that, or were you being judgmental, and all the things that you say that you aren't, right? So I see, that's what I see. I keep tapping into those that are helping people open their perceptions and their hearts to be okay with being, it's okay. That's what you chose. It's okay. We can't change the past. The present is where the gift is, and we're all here to receive it now. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll be here again. Come again when you can, beloved. Mwah.
Thank y'all so much. What is sweet.
Thank you, everyone.